Memories of Terry Gordy.
Oh, Terry, man, Terry, I love Terry Gordy. Terry Gordy and me used to have a lot of fun together. Oh my goodness, in Atlanta and then St. Louis. We tagged in St. Louis a few times. We just had a lot of fun. Terry Gordy was one of the best workers, the big guys in the business, and me and him were good in the ring. And I'm going to tell you something. You know, Michael Hayes thinks his crap doesn't stink. But I'm gonna tell you what Terry Gordy told me, Michael P.S. Hayes, about you. You think your stuff doesn't stink. Terry Gordy. So I'm in there working the first time with him as in a tag, and he says to me, he goes, "God, man, I wish I'd have had a partner like you, man. We'd have really done something." And he says, "You know what that P.S. stood for in Hayes?" I go, "No, pretty shitty." Huh. And that's what he thought of Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes, yeah, he was all about Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes wasn't that good in the ring. He really wasn't. If you watch his matches, he's horrible. And but now he thinks he's God's gift to wrestling because his old butt boy JR got him a job up there with the WWE. And that's fine. You know, they're running out of ideas. You guys are getting dumb. You're running out of ideas. You know, it's just funny. I've tried to watch the show and I can't watch the whole show anymore because it's so bad. I mean, the angles are bad. TNA's bad. Both shows are really stinking. And yeah, he's got a cable rating because he's the only game in town besides TA. TNA doesn't really mean anything. TNA stole my gimmick. I brought professional wrestling. I was the first guy to ever soundstage professional wrestling with the IWF at Universal Studios. I had it there until I got ready to close it. And then I had Eric Bischoff, ATM Bischoff, calling me, all the time. "Ed, we want to come in there and shoot." I said, "I don't give a rat's ass what you want, Eric." "Oh, but hey, I'll give you Sting." I said, "What are you going to give me Sting for?" And this is nothing against you, Sting. The bottom line is he just kept bringing up your name. I said, "I don't need Sting. You're not drawing with Sting now. What is Sting going to draw for me?" I said, "Why don't you just give me a whole bunch of money and I'll just go away? You know, like you're giving all these other guys. You're giving them, you know, you're just writing all these big checks." And he lied on his resume. He was nothing but an announcer for the AWA. And he lied on his resume to get the job at Turner. And then it caught up with him. And then you hired guys underneath you. You had like J.J. Dillon. You had Jody Hamilton. You had great brains in there underneath you, and you wouldn't even use them. So you took WCW down and all the boys down with them. You think because you paid the boys too much money, you paid them way too much money. I mean, I don't mind people making money, but you're giving away too much money of other people's money. It's a thing called the wrestling business. Without the business, there's no wrestling. So when you kill the business, there's no wrestling. There's no WCW anymore. There's no Turner Broadcasting at 6:05 anymore. Because guess what, Eric? You can look yourself in the mirror every stinking day you live and say, "I killed the damn company." How would you like that? So what I did on 2020, I made people pay the guys, but I wanted them to be paid. There's no middle ground in wrestling. And I'm going to finish this statement. I made them pay the guys. But you know something? Wrestling has no middle ground. There's either complete marks that are dumber than a friggin' stump, or guys that want to cheat the guys out of money. There's a happy medium here, guys, that needs to be done like business is really done. You pay the guys a fair wage. Hey, let me tell you something. Just because you think you've been on TV, somebody shouldn't guarantee you $1,000 to come in if you ain't putting asses in the seats. I can tell you that. Bottom line is this. I'm not going to guarantee you $1,000. How many tickets you going to guarantee I sell? You need to be paid accordingly to what your ass draws. And that's been the problem with this business right now. This business could get back to being the right way and do the right thing because Vince does it right. He's not going to pay over 25 or 30% talent fees, period. And that's the way you run the industry. Not that, okay, I'm gonna give this guy $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 because I like him, and I'm gonna mark out because he's gonna come to my match. I give two crap about you and your marks. Hey, if you're not drawing money, you don't need to be paying that kind of money. You know, you pay a guy a decent, fair wage, but he's also got to pull his weight. That's just the way the business is.
A recent quote you had talked about, you recently said that the only reason the NWA doesn't exist is that they were a band of thieves that didn't want to pay the boys, which, you know, what they deserve. Can you elaborate on that more?
Yeah, NWA means no wrestlers allowed. And I'm going to show this probably for the first time it's ever been on camera. This is a book that was for all the promoters. This has every senior promoter, every promoter there is that was in the NWA. Jim Crockett Jr. was the president. Geigel was the first vice president. My buddy Ron Fuller was the second vice. James E. Barnett, secretary and treasurer. Board of directors, James E. Barnett, Jim Crockett, Fuller, Geigel, Victor Jovica, Mike LaBelle, Vince McMahon, that's senior, Frank Tunney, Fred Ward, and then you got all their numbers listed right there. And then it goes by territory by territory. See here, you got All Pro Japan, you know, that was booked by the Funks then. You got California Athletic Club, that was by Bastine. Then you got Capital Sports, and that's Carlos Colon. Capital Wrestling was Vince McMahon. Then you get into the Crockett Promotions, Championship Wrestling from Florida, which was, as you know, they got Jim Dillon down and Gerald Briscoe, but that's Barnett and Eddie Graham. It just goes on to cover all the NWA. This was a secret book that was given out in Las Vegas each and every year, and I went to two of those with Ron Fuller. And what they did in those secret meetings where they all got together, the NWA, you know, when you've always heard the statement that thieves make strange bedfellows. Well, these are all a bunch of thieves in the NWA. And they were held together by one guy, Sam Mushnick. He held them together because he had the brains to keep them together. All the rest of them were like piranhas trying to get at each other. And what is so funny is this, that you're such a powerful organization with all these territories around the country, and then Vince McMahon comes in and he's snatching little guys over here. He's cherry picking this guy, this guy, this guy. You guys, the NWA, turned tail and ran. Why in the world, after you've stolen millions and millions of dollars, would you not keep your territory running? Vince McMahon can't run your towns every stinking week like you could. You could have kept the NWA going. What happened was you were all too damn greedy. You didn't want to spend the money to have to keep paying. You didn't want to pay the guys. Bottom line was you didn't want to pay the wrestlers, so you'd rather fold 10 up like a bunch of cowards and run and hide. Just like two fat rats in the junkyard, like I told you. That's what happened to the NWA. Why would, after 50, 60 years you've been in existence, would you turn tail just because Vince McMahon cherry-picked a few of your talent and he had a cable TV deal or he was going to syndicate? Well, you guys already had TV, each and every town. All you do is you go back to what made you. Hey, you take one guy, so what? Build another guy. And I don't want to hear the excuse, oh, the towns when they hear, say, Tommy Rich or Tony Atlas. You guys are full of crap. You know what happened was? You got exposed. You got really exposed. And Vince McMahon exposed what kind of characters you guys really were. You were just a bunch of thieves. And when it came down to having to pay the boys, you'd rather fold tent and run like a nomad. You didn't want to stay there and pay the boys. And I cannot, to this day, believe that you would give up from the Gulf Coast all the way up to New York away for one guy. And you did. You folded.
What are your thoughts on Sam Mushnick?
Sepp Mushnick was the guy who kept NWA together. Sepp Mushnick was a very, very intelligent guy, great businessman, and his payoffs at the Kill were great. That's the only reason Kansas City territory existed, was because of Sam Muchnick. Because Kansas City territory was so stinking bad with payoffs, it wasn't even, it was a joke.
Worse than Memphis?
Close. Those two are about the same. It's like what David Schultz said, who was the promoter he hated the most? It was Jerry Jarrett. And there's a reason. You know, if you look back, you know why Vince Russo is where he is today? Jerry Jarrett, when he was with Vince, took him out of the room that Vince needed him to stay in and put him up there writing. And now it's so funny that he's Vince Russo, everywhere Vince Russo goes, or everywhere Jarrett goes, Vince Russo goes.
Right.
Now, what do you need a writer that killed the territory? I still believe that Vince Russo is on McMahon's payroll.
A lot of people say that.
And you can't change my thoughts. And I'm going to tell you the way I think, because what are you going to do? You can't do nothing about it.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.